Está começando mais um episódio do Torá com Fritas, o podcast kasher do conteúdo judaico. Eu sou o Moretel Hotz, um historiador e hebraísta em seu caminho rabínico.
Eu sou a Seth Goldstein, orientalista e mergulhadora. E vocês já vão notar que o episódio de hoje tá um pouco diferente, assim como o episódio 120, pois é o nosso terceiro episódio em inglês, já que o nosso convidado não fala português. Há um tempo atrás a gente mencionou que recebeu um financiamento do ISGAP, The Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy, e uma das exigências que eles fizeram para nos dar o financiamento é que a gente tivesse mais episódios em inglês. Então, cá estamos. E de novo, torcedores, calma, para quem não estiver disposto a encarar uma hora de podcast em outra língua, depois ele vai ser transcrito e enviado para quem apoia o Torá, como se fosse uma newsletter. Vai chegar em formato de entrevista, tipo páginas amarelas da revista Veja, por e-mail. Então, sem mais delongas, a gente vai ao tema e ao convidado de hoje. A gente vai falar sobre produção de conteúdo judaico para a internet, e para isso a gente convidou o rabino Seth Goldstein, um sobrenome com o qual vocês já estão familiarizados aqui nesse podcast, e ele se apresenta nas redes como Rabi360. Então a gente vai deixar também o @ dele tudo certinho para vocês seguirem. So, reverting to English now. For those of you who don't speak any Portuguese and couldn't understand any of what was said before, I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Angela Goldstein. I've been co-hosting this podcast for over 4 years now. And aside from this, I work with land registry in Brazil, and I'm also a certified professional scuba diver. Tel, could you please introduce yourself?
I'm Theo Hotz. I am a historian and also a Hebraist, and I finished my rabbinical studies a year and a half ago, and I am waiting for my ordination to come.
In December, right?
In December, willing God.
Do you have a date or not?
Od lo. As we say in Hebrew, not yet.
All right. And so to talk about today's topic, which is producing online content about Judaism, we have invited Rabbi Seth Goldstein, who has kindly agreed to join us, and we're thrilled to have him over. So, Rabbi Seth, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Wonderful to be here. So my name is Seth Goldstein, and I'm a rabbi. I have a couple years on Jewital. I've been ordained 23 years now. And I'm originally from New York, from the New York area, but I've been living and working in Olympia, Washington, the Pacific Northwest of the U.S. since ordination for the past 22 years or so.
Great. Anything curious about yourself, such as...
Oh, that's right. I don't speak Portuguese. That's one, but I was kind of trying to follow along the best I can. I will say, curious. I think that I own a pig that is, maybe that's a bit of we have quite a menagerie of animals at our home. We have dogs and cats, of course. We have had chickens. We don't have chickens currently. We have a turtle, and in the biggest of ironies, we have a pig. So our pig Oswald has been with us for the past couple of years.
It's such a great name for a pig.
I can't take credit. We adopted him from a cousin who had to rehome him. But yes, it's a perfect name for a pig, and he's a great member of the family because he takes care of all of our food scraps.
Yeah. Great. That's nice.
I heard that pigs loves Jews.
Yeah, because he's the safest pig in town, right? He's not going to be, right? He knows he's safe and secure. He'll never...
He will only come into the living room if he's invited to, not any other way, right?
Yeah, he lives outside. He used to live indoors, and because he was kind of raised as an outdoor pig since a piglet. And when we brought him in, he was living indoors, but our house wasn't really equipped for that. So it only lasted a few months of tearing up the kitchen. And you know that old story, the folktale that could always get worse? It's 100% true. The whole idea of bringing the animals in your house and then bringing them out and realizing, oh, it's so peace and quiet. It was very true, because once the pig left living indoors into this outdoor pen that we built for him, it was like, wow, it's so calm in our home. We have so much room. So I highly recommend. if you need to.
Having the pig outside. Okay. Great. So as we were talking just before we started recording the podcast, when we started it in May 2021, we wanted to have like an outlet to educate people about Judaism online, and not in form of a blog or just content on social media, but something that could last a little bit, would be fun and entertaining, but very educational. What we had in mind was not talking about anti-Semitism or about the Holocaust, which are the two topics most people like to link Jews to for obvious reasons. But like, these are two topics from which I would like to detach Jews a little bit, because we're our own thing and we're not what other people did to us. So we wanted to educate people on Jewish culture, holidays, traditions, literature. And so I'd like to start out by asking Rabbi Seth, what led you to creating content on Judaism?
To be honest, initially a little bit of boredom. So I mean, just to say that I started during the lockdown, during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I had a Facebook and I had an Instagram that I didn't really use too much before that. And then, when the lockdown happened and we're all in our homes, and, I'm assuming it's sort of similar perhaps as it was in, Brazil as it was in the US. And so, it's a new reality. And obviously, in addition to the kind of the work shift online and whatnot, you're spending a lot more time at home. And I think that started actually with my wife, who had downloaded TikTok for the first time and was I'd keep hearing her laugh at these videos and share things with me. And I said, oh, I should download this too. And it was a great way to kind of pass the time and fun to watch. And at one point I was like, maybe I could make one of these. And I did. And the first one was kind of a jokey one about being a rabbi with no congregants, just sort of because everyone's in lockdown. And it was just kind of fun to do. And I think so I kept doing it, and not with any particular goal in mind outside of just kind of having fun and, connecting, as I think that a lot of people went online at that point, especially around TikTok and Instagram, to just continue to be entertained and to build connection in a way that we couldn't because we're in person. And I think after a little bit, I started to notice in the comments that people were resonating with the Jewish content, and that it was becoming meaningful for people because it was providing Judaism and connection to text and tradition in a new and different way. And that kind of inspired me to keep going. So while it's still fun, and I don't think I would do it if it wasn't fun, I realized that, this is actually a really interesting and good way to teach about Judaism. And similar to you with the podcast, I wasn't necessarily interested in talking about anti-Semitism or talking about the Holocaust. I'm a rabbi, right? And my job is to build spiritual community and to provide a little drash on the parsha for the week, or share about a holiday, and to do it in multiple ways that the platforms allow, which is to kind of connect one by creating my own content, but also kind of reacting to others in terms of trends or sounds or what people are talking about, and to connect it Jewishly ultimately resonated with folks. And so I keep going and keep growing, and it's been fun. And I think that there are folks who I've heard, I guess the one comment I would say that was really probably the most inspiring that I remember, which is somebody wrote wow, I've learned more from you than I did in Hebrew school. And on the one hand, I'm like, as a rabbi, are Hebrew schools that bad? And on the other hand, it's that's actually neat, because it's somebody who's connecting in a way that they resonate with, that they might not have learned a different way. And I'm not saying it's an either or, it's a both and. And I think that I love when I do a parsha one and all these people write, oh, that's my bar mitzvah portion. And it's and I talked about this. And it's wow, this is people are building their connections to Judaism. And so I started out for fun and boredom and wound up with as a really neat teaching platform, because as you know, technologies are always changing. Judaism evolves and changes too, but Judaism is ancient, that technology is new, and we could find new ways to send those ancient messages and in meaningful ways.
That's great. It's more or less the same way we started. We started during the pandemic, right? So we started talking about it in 2020 and we aired in 2021. So it was peak pandemic before, because it took us forever in Brazil to get the vaccines. So in Brazil, it was like a bit before we got the vaccines in 2021. So
yeah, I remember that when we aired, I was in Israel. I was already vaccinated twice, and you weren't.
I think Israel got it pretty early on, if I remember.
Yeah, in December 2020.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I got my shot in July 21, and I was very fortunate because in Brazil, because we have a very for our American listeners or for our English speaking listeners that are not familiar with public health in Brazil, we have universal health care provided for by the government. So all the vaccines that we need, we can get for free at the government clinics. And we never, do you ever remember, Tel, when we were kids or before that, people talking about like which lab had produced what vaccine?
No, not at all.
Like in Brazil.
It wasn't a thing.
It was never something that we talked about. It's like, okay, August, we have to take this. Like when a kid is 3 years old, in August, they should take measles. I don't know, the shot for measles. And then moms take the kids to the health clinic and they get the vaccine and they leave. You never look at the maker. And for the first time, we were discussing that.
That's true. That was true in the U.S. All those standard ones, the older ones, we didn't know. But now it's race and it was new. And
yeah, but in Brazil, many people were very eager to get the Janssen shot because it was like 2-in-1. Because for most vaccines, you had to take 2 shots and Janssen was just the one. In Brazil, when it happened, we would have like priority groups. Yeah, I think that priority groups that you would have like senior citizens and people who had illnesses, like a weaker immune system, they would have priority. And I was at the very back at the line because I was, I don't know, like 35 and healthy. So yeah, you can wait all you want. But you could register at the clinic close to your home. You could register your name that in case in one of the days they had like a surplus of vaccines after everyone that was due to be vaccinated on that day had been vaccinated, if they had like a surplus, they would call you and you would have like 20 minutes to go to the clinic and get the vaccine. And I lived at the time like 2.5 blocks away from a health clinic in São Paulo. And the moment I could, enroll for that, I did. And one night I was at home, it was, I don't know, around 7 p.m. And they called me. I got a phone call and they said, "Oh, hi, is this Angela Goldstein?" I said, yeah. Well, what is this about? And she said, it's from the health clinic. I was like, is that the vaccine? I'm coming. And then I got there in like, I don't know, 5 minutes. And when I arrived, the nurses were all very nice about it. And they said, "Oh, you have a choice." And I thought they're going to ask me, would you rather have it on your left or your right arm? And she's like, you have a choice. We have 1 shot of Pfizer and 1 shot of Janssen. Which one would you prefer? And I was like, oh, okay. If that's up to me, then I'd like to have the Janssen because it's like...
That's like choosing wine in a restaurant.
The one that was 1 shot only. And I was like, yes, please. And then they even offered me like chocolate after because someone had brought them a box of candies. And then
what would you have gotten if you chose Pfizer? Maybe you would have gotten something nicer. I don't know. Then
at least a second shot.
Yeah, I'm team Pfizer, but that's because this is really what we need is more arbitrary things to divide each other. So that's what we.
But this was like just crazy in Brazil because people were for the first time like discussing the maker of the vaccine, and it's just like you have to get vaccinated against yellow fever. Okay, I'll go and you do that during lunchtime, and you go in and out, and it's done. Boom. Whoever's the maker doesn't make any difference, but for a while it did. But yeah, I think during the the pandemic is when many things started, and I can understand and I relate to that, like start producing content on social media about something that you're comfortable with, that you're familiar with, and you do that. And especially with congregants. Tel was just telling me that during the pandemic, you hosted a few Kabbalat Shabbats for Recife, right?
No, I used to read the Torah for a minyan in São Paulo. There were a bunch of people from Recife that were not having religious services at all. They started to attend this online minyan. And then I met almost everyone from Recife, but in fact, I don't know them in person.
Yeah, I don't know if you know that, Rabbi Seth, but Recife was the first Jewish community in the Americas.
Oh, I did not know that.
It's in the north of Brazil. It's a group of Portuguese Jews who were expelled from Portugal during the Inquisition and fled to the Netherlands. And in the 1700s, they came, 1600s maybe, Tal?
1600s.
1600s, right?
1600s.
Came to Brazil and started the first synagogue of the Americas is in Recife. And then they moved to a place called New Amsterdam in the United States.
Right, well, it had to be before, because I knew that the first Jews in the U.S. were right from there, made their way up north.
Yeah, it's the first synagogue in the Americas is here, even though the community in that area nowadays is not as big. But yeah. But another thing I had thought to ask you is that how has this content creation impacted you and the community and the synagogue? Like, have more people come to the synagogue because of that? Or?
I'm not sure, actually. I mean, I think that, I serve in a community that's a bit, a smaller community that's kind of not fully isolated, because we're not far from other Jewish communities, say in Seattle, which is our largest metropolitan area nearby and probably the largest Jewish community. I'm about 60 miles, sorry, to you can do the conversion, I can't, but from Seattle. So we're not completely isolated, but at the same time, within the city that I serve, we're a bit more. So I wouldn't say it's more people who are kind of choosing, say, or coming towards my community because of this. Although I think it does affect in other ways. I mean, I think that, I also try to keep those things separate. I don't really engage involve my community or congregants in my content. I mean, I might use the space because that's where I am, either my office or the sanctuary or other places. But I actually really try to kind of, to the extent that I can, make things generic and anonymous, because I know they didn't sign up for that per se. Although they've been very supportive in that. And I think that in some ways it is an overall benefit, because I think there are some folks who might connect or recognize or appreciate that. So it's another way of really serving my community, because I know a lot of my congregants follow that as well and appreciate that. And just like the fact that because it also is, in a way, secondarily, it's just a great way for me to exercise my own creative, have a different creative outlet, exercise those muscles, which I think ultimately benefits the community that I'm serving directly. I really try to balance that. And this is really like a side thing. I really am mindful about not letting it interfere with my main work, which is serving my community. And so, there are times when I have to kind of step back from that, because, it's not like, I have to produce, so I'm going to have to skip that funeral. I'm sorry, because I have to make it. No, it's not like, it's like I really try to lessen that impact. And so, which means that sometimes I am limited in terms of time and energy I could put into that, to the content creation. And a lot of things I create kind of more quickly, or if I had more time, I could do more editing, but I end up not, because I really don't want it to feel that it's an interference in that, because that's really what my ultimate service is to the Jewish community, is serving these people. And at the same time, I think they benefit. I've heard wonderful feedback from my community in terms of that. They appreciate the fact that I'm kind of public in that way. And I think that, again, they're learning too, just as other people are, they're exposed to it as well. So, and they're just sharing it around. So I think it is nice. And maybe that was it. You can edit that piece out. I don't know why I lost my train of thought.
Okay. Okay, no worries. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially when you say like your main goal would be serving the community, and then this would be sort of like a side gig. And another thing, when you mentioned the funeral, I was my mind just wandered and came back, because we have so many, like when we talk about content creators and influencers, sometimes I think we have people who go like too deep into turning everything into content. So, and I can imagine people who would want to watch what a funeral service looks like in the Jewish community and will go, oh, why don't you show that? Now we would sure have like audience for this. And this is the kind of thing that we choose not to bring very much into our podcast as well. So when we talk about things, we will talk about them from the spiritual side, from the, halakhic side from things, but not get too much into personal experience when it concerns other people's experiences. Like I've talked about personal experiences on the podcast, but that's me talking about myself, so I can filter what I think is okay to talk about and not put other people on the spotlight.
Right. Yeah. Very similar. I try to, because that's not their intention. And so, I try to educate. So there are some things that people aren't seeing, or even some ideas I might have that not because I don't want to include other people without consent. And but even then, I don't even pursue it so much. So that's why I play every role. If I have a video with multiple characters, I just play every role and then talk broadly about things.
I especially like the one where you play the role of a dreidel.
Oh, yeah.
It's my favorite because it's spinning.
Thank you.
It's really great. Yeah. I think we could do a similar one, Theo, and have the music from Peão da Casa Própria.
Wow, that's amazing.
There used to be a TV show in the 80s, 70s, up until the 2000s.
70s, 80s, yeah.
It was on there like for 30 odd years. And the host of that show was a Jew. His name was Cenoura Bravanel, but his business name was Silvio Santos. And he was a major communicator on Brazilian television, but huge. And he had a television show on Sundays that would go on for the whole day on Sunday, from lunchtime to dinner time, the whole afternoon. And one of the things was how do you say dreidel in English?
Dreidel?
No,
dreidel.
Yeah, but the object, Yeah.
A top is what you mean, like a top.
A top,
is that
okay.
What you mean?
The object, not the name of that, it's a top. Okay, so it was called your own house's top, because you would pay installments to get a house, to buy a house, property. And you would spend, and I don't know what you would see in how many installments you would pay, or how much money you would get to quit your debt, something like that. And it had a song that played when it spun, when they spun the top.
And in Brazil, when you hear this song, everyone thinks about spinning something. So if we do this video, a similar video like yours, we will surely put that song on.
It will be a viral video.
Thanks for the idea. This is my way to break into the Brazilian market now. I don't know if I have any followers in Brazil yet, but I can.
You do have a fan. I have a dear friend. His name is André Lieberman. He works with me for the WPJ, and he also knows Andrea Kulikowski. And he's a big fan of yours.
Oh, appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's always fun. Sometimes I feel I'm old enough to sometimes forget that there's real life and then there's online, and that when I put something online that people then see it. And so sometimes we'll make content, but I love that. Hearing that, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Theo had some experiences as a rabbi in São Paulo with people who listened to the podcast and came to the congregation where he was breaking, right?
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Actually, when I first get to this community, not first as a rabbi, the first couple who came to see me to talk about marriage, they came to the community, to this particular community, because they knew me from the podcast. So
that's great.
We like like the way you talk to people, the way you see Judaism in a positive way and in a funny way and in a very profound way also. So we want this for our marriage. So yeah, that's amazing.
A lot of pressure. That is amazing. That is amazing. No, I'm sure that means it's interesting because that's kind of one of the challenges I feel with doing the social media, and that is I kind of the opposite maybe to what you were asking before is I do get a lot of inquiries from people who will direct message me and they want to know more. That people who might not be Jewish and want to learn more, or they don't live in a place with a larger Jewish community or where Jewish community is accessible, and so they not lean on me in a bad way, but sort of reach out to me in a sense of wanting to follow up or ask questions, and that's where I feel like I have real limitations. Like I don't have the ability to respond to a lot of those. Sometimes I do if it's kind of quick and easy, but sometimes people feel they need that real connection and want to go deeper on things, and it's hard because I don't have I'm serving a community. That's my primary focus, and I'd love for folks to be able to find that for them, and I can't do that for a lot of people, which I understand, I recognize, and I've made peace with it. At the same time, I feel bad that people want to follow up, and then I think is kind of the interesting thing about social media, right? It makes our world a little smaller. I mean, here I am on a Brazilian podcast, which is great, and that wonderful to have that connection, and also I'm serving this kind of small, this community, this with the boundaries around it. I can't be that to everybody, so it's an interesting challenge, and in that. So maybe they just all have to move to where I am, just like that. But that's great. I mean, I love that story you just told, Teo, because it's like, it's really nice that you're able to sort of make those connections and then build on them, in real life.
We have some people asking about conversions to Judaism. Like they contact the podcast via Instagram mainly, asking about conversions, and we just say, well, we don't handle this as a podcast. You have to find a synagogue, because this is also something else. Like, and you might relate to that in that when people see your content often enough, they are your friends, but you don't know that.
Right.
Like they are our friends, and really they feel like they are, because they are. They talk to us when they listen to us, but we don't know them. So people go, could you refer me to Rabbi Seth's congregation, because I am in Washington and I'm willing to convert? And I say, I'm sorry, I can't. I
you.
You know me well enough.
I'll just refer to Teo here. That's it is. Honestly, I get it, because I kind of feel similarly with people I follow online. It's like, you develop a connection, but then recognizing, right? There's it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's called they are like parasocial relationships. Someone told me that this is the name for that. Because you're friends with that person. There is a reporter in Brazil. Her name is Natuza Neri, and she hosts a daily podcast on the news called The Subject. It's like, today's subject is, I don't know, something. And I listen to her every morning when I go to the gym. And sometimes I text her and say, you know what Natuza told me today? like she's a friend.
Yeah, it's very personal.
Listen to her every day. Yes, Natuza told me this morning. You know what? But she has no idea who I am. But I feel like we're friends.
You never know. Maybe she listens to the podcast. You don't know that, do you?
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I know she knows a person who I know. She knows João Miragaia. João Miragaia is a Brazilian. Yeah, he's been on her podcast a few times to talk about Israel and the war in Israel, because he lives in Israel. He's a Brazilian living in Israel, so she's interviewed him a few times. But yeah, so this is the thing. When people come and ask us about conversion and things like that, we say, maybe I would like to, but I can't help you. I can't refer you to a synagogue and say, oh yeah, this person, but I don't have a close relationship to you, so I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can tell you which synagogues in São Paulo you can get in touch with, but this is not a referral.
Right, yeah, it's hard because we want to say yes all the time, but there's real limitations, right? We can't.
Yeah, I can't vouch for that person. No, so this is it. But one thing that's very nice is that we have made friends through the podcast. Like some of the listeners have become friends, close friends.
Nice. Well, I'm going to look you up if I ever come to Sao Paulo. So
definitely.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, you should. And some.
Well, I have to find out if there. Well, now we have to find out if there's some relation down the road. That's what we're
between our Goldsteins, right?
Not our Goldsteins, yeah.
Yeah. Where in Poland do we come from? I have no idea. Like my grandfather didn't know that very well, and he died last year, so I don't really have a chance of asking that anymore.
And I don't know. That's the one branch of the family I don't know as much about than some others, but
yeah. So they came to São Paulo, and I know they had a little farm in São Paulo some 100 years ago, 120 years ago maybe. And that part used to be a different city, and now it's a part of São Paulo. So the city grew and incorporated that into it. There was another thing I wanted to ask you. Yeah, is how do you produce content? Like, do you have a calendar when you think about the Parsha portions or what holidays are coming?
Yeah, that's a great question. I kind of roughly, I don't have it's still, in some ways it's still, even though I've been doing it for a while and I produce regularly, there's still an informality to kind of how I approach certain things. I definitely try to, and I've been mostly successful. Sometimes something's going on and I get distracted, but to do something Parsha related every week. And usually that's two things. I try to do one kind of drash, just like one kind of teaching from myself kind of forward, like a short not 30 seconds, it's a little too short, but 60-second or 2-minute Devar Torah for the week, and to produce that. And then I also try to, this is kind of where I find I've tried to use, at least on TikTok, these memes and trending sounds and these sort of trends and then to use what's trending at the time, if it fits, to bring it into the Parsha and to do something Parsha related to that, which I find kind of fun. But also too, it's like, that's like, what's the what's the people, to be able to bring in Judaism in a way that is kind of surprising. Like, oh, I'm familiar with this. I'm familiar with this sound or this meme or this whatever. And to make that meme Jewish is like, oh, wow, that's a way of connecting for if a person's starting point. Because I recognize too that there are younger folks on here as well, on the platforms. And that's the way they connect, is through those memes and those sounds and those images. And to be able to then say, hey, look, I'm playing with this and making it Jewish, and here's a way you can increase some of your Jewish connection, is always fun. So that's kind of roughly it, at least as far as the schedule is concerned. And then really whatever else is going on, definitely holiday related. I'll make holiday content, which could vary. Sometimes I'll try to do spiritual kind of I've experimented with different things, like sort of meditative ones or prayers, or just trying to provide an outlet of spirituality. So that's really what I try to keep as the intention for the content. Like we were saying earlier, there's a lot within the Jewish world that we could be talking about, anti-Semitism or the Holocaust or Israel. And it's not that I don't talk about those things occasionally, but I really try to focus on, as a rabbi, on these contents. This is a place for people to get a dose of spirituality, whether that's a connection to the Parsha, or, if they're not going to services or whatnot, just have either a prayerful moment or things like that, or a lesson, or, teaching on Musar, or, some sort of Kabbalistic thing, just to be able to provide the Jewish spiritual piece is really where I've tried to keep my emphasis. And, it has shifted. I mean, I think that I started talking more, especially in the past year or so. You might have heard things are happening in the United States with the government and things like that. I've been commenting more on that, but really trying to tie it into Jewish values more, and Jewish teachings, not just as a kind of person with an opinion, but to speak more to those kind of issues of tikkun olam and common concern through that lens. I'm doing that a bit more recently, but still just trying to have fun with it, because I think it is also a place where people go for information, but also go to kind of move away, and to be able to, provide Judaism in surprising ways for people is really what it's part of what I'm trying to do, because I think that's like, oh, it resonates, or it's like, oh, this is something I've or I didn't realize that. And, oh yeah, now I understand the story. And when you put this story in the context of this meme, it's like, oh, I understand it more because I understand what the meme means. And so now, oh, you put this Jewish thing into that. It's like, oh, now, that's an interesting way of reading the story. So that's just been kind of fun. So that's kind of it as far as a calendar. And, once in a while, if something is trending, I'll sort of jump on that bandwagon. But try to keep that up. Although, I haven't been always 100% consistent, but I do my best.
That's the thing about committing to doing that. I was going to ask you if you have a specific date and time when you post, or is that free?
Well, a little bit. I started at one point. I got kind of wrapped up in the people who study this stuff, and they're like, "Oh, to get the most reach, you should be posting at this time, or look at your statistics, and you see when your people are on." And I was kind of got into that rabbit hole for a while, but then I just tend to post at 8 a.m. I try to post once a day, and sometimes I'll make a series of little videos and kind of have them in the bank, and I try to post kind of at 8 o'clock my time every day. Not always consistent, but I don't think there's a magic formula, but it's just kind of a practice for me. And I also post kind of, in addition to that, I tend to create some things about congregational life or rabbinic life or just kind of silly things about that, and I'll post those as well. But not nothing to the extent of upsetting my congregation. Try to be careful about that. Yeah. Mostly about me, my foibles. But
we do have this. I would say consistency is key to people get to know you. We do we air every other week, so not every week, but every fortnight.
I think it's harder with a podcast, right? It's harder. I mean, the podcast, there's a lot because people will expect it at a particular time and date, and the recording and the editing. So that's wonderful. I mean, it's great. I don't think I've ever. I mean, podcasting 2 or 3 years ago, or a little bit ago, but that was really not to this level. I was just doing 1 minute Torah commentaries. It wasn't really a podcast even, I guess. It was just an audio note or something. But this is great. I mean, it takes so much effort and work into that, but it really produces a meaningful experience. So
we do that every other week on Thursday, early in the morning. We don't have a specific time, but we aim that when people wake up on Thursdays, every other Thursday, it's there for them. And this helps people develop a relationship with you because they know it's coming, it's going to happen. They can rely on that content. And when we first started, I was doing on Instagram, I was trying to post every day and connecting to the previous episode. So we did an episode on kashrut, so I would have a post on what's halavi, what's basari, what's parve, I don't know. But now I am a bit swamped with work and I have been a bit relaxed with our social media. I like doing videos for TikTok more than Instagram because even though you can use the same videos on both, I feel that TikTok is more friendly towards homemade videos than Instagram, where they want something with a more professional setting look. On TikTok, I would feel like people could just see my face the way I look now, but on Instagram, I would at least have to put on some lipstick,
Yeah, I agree. That's why I started primary at TikTok just because of that, and I got comfortable with that platform and felt it was very down to earth. And then I only just started
uploading
a little bit after I started that, just putting everything on Instagram as well. But I haven't really created original content. Hopefully Meta's not listening right now, but that I've just borrowed that over. But yeah, I agree. There was something to that TikTok platform that made it kind of.
I think it's more friendly towards homemade things, or not professionally looking sort of videos, photos, more down to earth, as you said. And also with making the humor videos where you yourself can play more than one character. I don't know, if I was playing a man, I would just, draw a mustache using eyeliner, and people would find it funny enough, rather than on Instagram, I do not have to have an actor or I have Teo playing with me. So I quite like TikTok for that. But with TikTok, you don't have, because on Instagram, you can schedule a post for a specific day and time, and it will show. And I know that because I follow a cat shelter in São Paulo that every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m., they post which cats were adopted over the past week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. and I love looking at them.
So you're like waiting. You're waiting by your phone at
8
Tuesday evening.
Tuesday, 8 p.m.
Or in the morning, yeah.
Yeah, I always have my phone near me because I want to see which cats got adopted. And I'm always rooting for them. And I tell my husband, like, look, this one, this week, Popcorn was adopted. She'd been at the NGO for the past 2 years and she was waiting for a family. Okay, you got attached to the cats. But I think TikTok doesn't have a system like that. You have like that For You timeline, and they will just figure out what you like watching and they'll deliver that to you. So my TikTok is basically sewing patterns, how to correct sewing mistakes, which fabric should you choose for making said garment, how to draw patterns, how to cut patterns. It's made, and Rabbi Seth Goldstein, like.
I was going to say, I'm waiting for that. I was like, wow, maybe if I start doing some sewing content, then your head will explode. That's it.
But they mainly deliver like sewing contents to me. It's mainly that. Once they figure out, like, and we've tried doing a few videos for TikTok, but along with the podcast, then it's a lot to do because we try to record an episode every week so that we have a plethora of episodes. Should anything happen and we can't meet in a week, then we have something to work with in the future.
That's great. No, that's wonderful. Yeah.
And with the
how did you choose the name of your podcast? What is that? How did you choose the name?
Tell, please.
That's a funny story.
Yeah, I tell you're like got really big smile. Yeah.
We scheduled this meeting. I was in Israel in a snack bar. We were talking and brainstorming, and every single name we could think was not it. There were these that were really awful and off the thing, and there were these it could be nicer. And after an hour or so, we said to each other, so let's continue other day. And then she came, the waitress, and asked me if I wanted something more. And I said, chips bevakasha. So when I said chips bevakasha, I just came, wow, Torá con fritas, Torá in chips.
Yeah.
Torá with fries. And
if you're American, if you're British, then it's Torá with chips.
And we just knew. That's the name.
Yeah. It was like, yes, that's it, Torá with chips. Because we had thought like Café Torá. I don't know, we came up with lots of names and nothing worked. And then Taylor was like,
great, I love it.
Yeah, I'll just order some chips. And we were like, yes, Torá with chips. That's it. Because it's like a conversation, a laid back conversation that you're having with a friend, and people can join in.
It could have been Torá with hummus if you had a different appetite. If you wanted something else.
But whenever I said to people in Israel that I had a podcast which is called Torá im Chips, they went crazy. That's a great name. זה ממש זה יעבור, זה גדול, זה ענק. אז ידעתי. I just knew it. That's a great name.
It is a great name. It's a wonderful name. I love it.
We're very proud of the name. We're equally proud, of the project and of the name.
Yeah, but you have to have a great name, and that was,
Yeah, and it's funny because we've had, I think, over the past 4.5 years that we've been on air, 2 or 3 people tell us like it's blasphemy. It's like, oh, this name is very uncouth. It's
really interesting.
Yeah, it's disrespectful. We've had people come and tell us like, it's respectful name. And
don't worry, I have a very low bar. I don't think there's a lot that's not disrespectful. So.
Yeah, it's like, the Torah is something so sacred, so holy. So it's paired with food, which keeps us alive. So
Sometimes people, if I've used the Torah, I have used the Sefer Torah in some of my videos, and I get some comments that I'm being disrespectful, and I'm just trying to make a connection, right, with people sort of teaching about. I'm not doing anything that is disrespectful to the Torah, I don't feel.
But I'm willing to bet you that people who have done, at least if it was in Brazil, okay, people who have done this kind of comments are not Jewish.
Yeah, in general.
It's possible, yeah.
In general.
I that's a really interesting point, because I have had that. There was a time when I was getting a bunch of comments like that, and I was kind of getting upset. And then somebody else, I might have been responding to a few or something, but I don't remember if somebody sent me a direct message or commented on the comment stream, but something similar to that. And I was like, wow, that was actually pretty eye-opening. And it made sense. And I went back and looked at it again, and it did make sense. Or it's a sense of like, not so much as Jews kind of commenting on that, but what people who weren't Jewish feel about Jews, and that I was not being a representative. That's interesting. You have the same experience.
No one knows more about Jewish culture, what Jews do, how Jews behave, than a goy.
Than a non-Jew. Yeah.
I've told this story before, but it was in Portuguese, so the American listeners haven't heard it yet. But do you know the Netflix show Jewish Matchmaking? Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's quite nice. And at some point, the matchmaker, she quotes the Spice Girls. She looks at one of her folks and she says, but you have to know what you want, what you really, really want. And she says, like the Spice Girls said, when you're looking for a significant other, you have to know what you want, what you really, really want, not what you are like, okay, I'm willing to compromise on this. It's like, be specific to what you want, what you really, really want. And the wife of a friend of mine wrote to me. She's not Jewish. She's very Catholic, actually. And she texted me when she was watching the show. And she said, I didn't like the matchmaker. And I said, but she's so sweet. What's not to like about her? She's a sweetheart. If I was single, I would like to have hired her, It's like, at the time of the show, I was already married, but she's a darling. And she said, because she says all those like ancient Hebrew words full of meaning. And at some point, she quotes something as mundane as the Spice Girls. Like she's mixing these very holy, sacred, ancient words of wisdom with the Spice Girls. And I was like...
And that was a problem for her.
And, yes, it's 2024, 2023 when the show... And she's not, living under a rock. She knows the Spice Girls.
Interesting. It says a lot, I think, what people think Jews are or what we're supposed to be. And that does come up a lot, I think, on social media, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm sorry I don't live up to your expectations, but I'm Jewish and this is how I behave. And I don't think it's your place to tell me I'm not Jewish. But lots of people think it's their place to tell us that. And we've had, I think we were very critical of our previous government and the podcast, especially because during the pandemic, as Theo said, in Israel, they had the vaccines in 2020 and we had in Brazil to wait up until the second half of 2021 to get it. And because of him, mainly because the former president. So we were very critical of him and of many things he did and did not do as well, as in the vaccines. He did not provide us the vaccination. So we were very critical of that. And he posed as very Jewish friendly, as a friend of the Jewish community. And a lot of people like, oh, but you're not good Jews because
not Jewish enough because you say bad things about the man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, yeah, interesting.
So it was funny because these comments came mainly from non-Jews, because Jews know that we never agree with each other. So if they disagree with us, then it's okay. We're very Jewish. You know, but it was crazy with that. And I don't know in Washington what the situation is like with evangelicals, but this is a topic we covered before on the podcast in English about the relationship of evangelicals, especially neo-Pentecostal evangelicals, with Judaism. Because in Brazil, they tend to be very Jewish friendly towards us, and even using some of our symbols. Like they have stars of David around the necks, and they have Israeli flags and menorahs and the likes. Is that something in Washington as well?
I haven't had too much personal experience with that. Interestingly enough, the Northwest of the U.S. is one of the least religious affiliated parts of the U.S. So overall affiliation is low, and I think people people tend to take a bit more liberal approach to religion anyway, those who are engaged with it. So, I mean, I've definitely experienced that here and there. And it hasn't been like an overwhelming issue for me that it might have been if I live in a different part of the U.S., but it is kind of always interesting. But I think this kind of what I think the larger issue that relates to that you were talking about earlier is this notion about this I don't want to say fetishization or something, but just this idealization of what Jews are and what they should be is a part of that as well, and it's really interesting to see, and why I think that sometimes it is because and then the level of actual knowledge is kind of lower. People don't really understand what Judaism is, or they have a different notion or an expectation. So the extent we engage with that, or just kind of let it be and deal with our own stuff, I don't know. But I know I recognize it as an issue. Yeah, I guess I don't deal with it too much, which is probably maybe a good thing. I don't know.
It is. It is. I'm sure
I'll take it.
It is. Because in Brazil, we have some people who call themselves Messianic Jews. So they're Christians who call themselves Messianic Jews. And some of these people, they cosplay as Jews online. So you look at them, and from the way they're dressed, you would think they might be Orthodox Jews, because they have all to use a word that's very in vogue in TikTok, they have all the aesthetic. And they do produce content on Judaism, but they're not Jewish.
Yeah, interesting.
So I don't know.
That's really interesting. It's hard to tell sometimes, right? So it's like, especially like you're saying with the commentators, people will comment and try to come across as Jewish, or providing an internal critique for, which on the one hand is fine. Like that's part of the inter-Jewish dialogue. But when it's actually not, then it's like, okay, that's something else. We need to think about that.
I think this is just something for us to keep on our radar when you are looking for content on Judaism on the internet. How do you filter that? How do you know it's legit?
That's an easy one.
Yeah, and I think
the first link that appears in Google will be from Chabad, and the second one will be from the Messianic. So you got the third. The third is something liberal or reform or reconstructionist or conservative. That's where you land.
That's a great rule of thumb. There we go. Where is AI getting all their info from?
But what if you're on? Yeah, that's the thing also with AI. I hate it that now Google tries to push that AI down our throat. And this morning I just read it's called Gemini. And it's called it was a meme that said, listen, if I wanted to get an opinion from a Gemini, I'd ask my mother. In my case, I'd ask my father because he was a Gemini. But if I wanted an unsolicited opinion from a Gemini, I have my dad. But it's very nagging because at work, all the meetings I do are over Google Meet. And it also, would you like Gemini to help you? And it's like, no, stop nagging me. I have to do that every day. It's like, no, thank you. I don't want it. And when you search for something on Google right now, they will first show you the AI generated response.
It's just it's the contemporary Clippy, little
from
paperclip
Word
that showed up the Microsoft Word, right? Can I help you write your letter? Just keeps coming in different forms, regenerated. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the updated version of the Clippy. Yeah. But just, I think this would be the last question, because when you're on Google, okay, you discard, then you search about Judaism, you discard the AI generated response, then you have Rabbi, Messianic, you go with the third option. But what if you're on other social media, such as TikTok or Instagram, Facebook? How do you filter if a content is legit or not?
That's a great question. I mean, it's kind of the ongoing thing with media literacy, right? I mean, it's the same. We were asking this about, well, I mean, I guess I come across this all the time because people will, they'll do research if they're like researching a Torah portion or something. And, sometimes they'll come to me and say like, well, I found this. And I say, well, what site was that from? And, there is a level of knowledge that has to go in prior to it, which is part of the navigating. I think that shows up in social media now. And I guess with me, it's like what I try to do, especially with some of the commentators, I think I try to follow their profile and see what their profile looks like and if they have other links. Because some of these times I feel maybe they're not even real. Maybe they're not even real people. I don't know. But I think we have to do our research. And maybe it's through that establishing the consistency that you mentioned earlier and the credibility, being able to do that and to have accessibility. I mean, I think that if I find somebody, if I can't find anything else about them, that seems kind of weird. But if I could find, here's their personal website or here's their blog or something like that, okay, now I know where they're coming from. And even if I don't agree or if we're coming from a different place within Judaism, at least I know where they are. But yeah, it's harder for folks who are less familiar. And that's because I think that, that comes up too, especially within Judaism, because I know that, I practice a different, I'm a trained Reconstructionist on the more liberal end of things and say Orthodox rabbis or Chabad. And I know they we're both on there. We're all on there. And I think the thing that that I come up against too, aside from general trolls, is that notion of, well, what's authentic Judaism, right? What is the authentic, like who is the voice of, not even Jewish, non-Jewish, or people cosplaying as Jewish, as you mentioned, but even within, like, people will, this is authentic. Like, this is what, I mean, I learned a long time ago in Jewish education, like, to not say, like, what Jews do, because there's such a variety within Judaism that, that can be practiced. And I think I'm always pretty clear about who I am and where I'm coming from, and that I don't pretend to represent orthodoxy or a traditional halakhic practice or whatnot, but to talk about tradition in an authentic way to me. And I think that's kind of on the creator, right? That's kind of our obligation, but sometimes that gets fuzzy and we have to suss that out, which is harder to figure out.
Yeah. Well, I think with that, we come to a nice ending of our talk. I think that concludes our conversation.
Wait, I don't get chips with this. That was the whole.
We could always DoorDash.
Whenever you're in Brazil, whenever you're in São Paulo,
DoorDash. You owe me. Okay, very good. We'll do it.
We owe you an order of fries.
Okay, I'm holding you to that.
Yes, please do. Usually at the end of every episode, we offer recommendations and we ask our guests for recommendations on, media regarding the topic. So as a recommendation today, I will recommend you follow Rabbi Seth's Instagram and TikTok accounts, which is Rabbi_360, right?
Yes. You didn't ask me what that meant, but that's
Actually, yes. This is...
Unless you know. Maybe you know. Or it's very mundane.
No, I don't, actually. And I'm sorry I missed that. I should have asked you that.
Oh, no, it's nothing too... Well, it just is a kind of a nice happenstance. So it comes down to area codes, in the U.S. So I live in the 360 is our phone area code. But I thought it was a nice, which is a little hint about where I am geographically. But I just thought it was a nice count because 360, is a full circle.
Circle.
Every angle.
Full view. Yeah, exactly. Trying to see every angle, every view. So it kind of worked out. It sort of locates me in place and also is a kind of intention. So
great. Yeah.
Yes, so thank you.
Great. Now, do you have any recommendations, any hints?
I would recommend the accounts Instagram or TikTok of miriamanzovi. She's wonderful. She does this short videos about the Daf Yomi, the Talmudic page of the day, and she is right on spot. She gets it. And she brings this perspective, this feminine perspective, but also this vision from a person who was once in the Orthodox realm. Oh yeah, that's my bell ringing. So
Tal, your recommendation is that people follow Miriam
Anzovi.
But do you have any recommendations, Rabbi Seth, that you would like to?
I recommend the Superman movie. I think it's really. I just saw it the other day with my son, and it's kind of fun and it's different. But I think that the Jewish history of Superman is always kind of interesting. This doesn't retell the origin story of Superman that parallels the Moses story, but it's still kind of an interesting reflection on identity and being an alien, from another place and being part of a larger community. So yeah, I think it's worth seeing and checking out and reflecting.
Bom, então com isso a gente termina o episódio do Torá com Fritas. Lembrando que vocês podem entrar em contato com a gente através do nosso e-mail contato@toracomfritas.com. Entrar no nosso site www.toracomfritas.com ou .br, também temos os dois domínios. Podem nos procurar no Instagram, no Blue Sky, no TikTok como @toracomfritas. E a gente lembra vocês que o Torá é generosamente mantido por quem nos ouve e apoia o podcast. E você pode colaborar conosco através de apoia.se/toracomfritas ou catarse.me/toracomfritas ou orelo.cc/toracomfritas. Nós também recebemos o apoio do SGAP, The Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy. Para não perder nenhum episódio, é só assinar o nosso feed no tocador de podcasts preferido. O Torá com Fritas é feito pela Angela Goldstein e pelo Theo Hotz, idealizadores e apresentadores do podcast. O Alu é o nosso editor de som e o intérprete da nossa música de abertura. E para entrar em contato com ele, é só procurar no Instagram pelo @alusanto. A nossa identidade visual é da Maia Batalha. Muito obrigada a todo mundo que nos ouviu até agora.
Muito obrigado e até a próxima!